Imagine an army not defeated by bullets or artillery, but crushed by the relentless, indifferent hand of nature, forced to march through mountains blanketed in snow, across icy gorges and treacherous cliffs, their every step a battle against frostbite, exhaustion, and hunger. This was the Great Serbian Retreat of 1915, later remembered as the Albanian Golgotha, one of the most harrowing and tragic episodes in military history, a journey where the limits of human endurance were tested beyond imagination. In the autumn of that year, Serbia, a small nation in the heart of the Balkans, found itself caught in a vice of overwhelming enemy forces. Germany, Austria, Hungary, and Bulgaria had coordinated a massive invasion designed to crush the Serbian army and occupy the country. Facing encirclement and certain annihilation, the Serbian High Command made the desperate choice to abandon fortified positions and withdraw across the Accursed Mountains, aiming for the Adriatic coast, where Allied ships might provide evacuation. What began as a tactical maneuver rapidly turned into a humanitarian nightmare. Alongside soldiers, the retreat included the royal family, government officials, wounded men, prisoners of war, and hundreds of thousands of civilians, families clutching children, the elderly moving slowly or being carried, the sick and injured borne on makeshift stretchers or sleds, all swept together in a chaotic exodus across one of Europe's most unforgiving landscapes. The mountains themselves were merciless, narrow, icy paths twisted upward, flanked by cliffs that fell away into gaping chasms. Blizzards struck without warning, freezing exposed limbs, drenching clothing, and reducing visibility to a few feet. Avalanches thundered down slopes, burying those unlucky enough to be in their path, and snowdrifts blocked even the most carefully chosen routes, forcing columns to detour into unknown and dangerous territory. Hunger gnawed at every soul. Soldiers shared the last scraps of food with civilians, yet still watched helplessly as parents saw their children weaken and fall behind. Frostbite and gangrene claimed fingers and toes, leaving survivors to amputate limbs themselves or endure the harrowing cries of companions suffering unbearable pain. Disease spread like wildfire. Typhus, dysentery, and pneumonia ran rampant through the columns, killing silently and swiftly, often before help could arrive. Exhaustion overtook men, women, and children alike. Soldiers who had endured artillery fire and enemy assaults found themselves broken not by combat, but by fatigue, hunger, and cold, collapsing on narrow mountain trails where they would sometimes lie for days before being buried in shallow snow graves. Austrian aircraft patrolled the skies, strafing and bombing wherever columns lingered or stragglers fell behind, adding terror to the already unimaginable struggle. Families were torn apart, children abandoned by parents too weak to carry them, elderly left to die in the snow, wounded soldiers unable to keep pace. Alongside human suffering, animals, horses, mules, and carts carrying supplies often perished in the freezing conditions, sometimes crushing men and women under their sudden falls. Desperation led to unimaginable choices. People abandoned belongings, valuables, and sometimes even the bodies of the dead, unable to carry the burden, while rivers swollen by melting snow claimed others who tried to cross them. Of the roughly 400,000 people who began the march, only around 180,000 ultimately survived. 120,000 soldiers and 60,000 civilians. Tens of thousands perished along the way, their deaths largely unrecorded, swallowed by the mountains, leaving only the haunting echo of suffering in history. Those who reached the Adriatic coast faced further hardship. Thousands were too weak to endure evacuation. Many died shortly after arrival on Corfu, while over 5,000 were buried at sea near the small island of Vido, the site forever known as Plava Grobnica, the Blue Graveyard, its waters a somber monument to human suffering. The retreat devastated Serbia, villages emptied, communities torn apart, and a generation of men, women, and children marked by trauma, hunger, and grief. Yet from this crucible arose resilience. Survivors were reorganized, rearmed, and eventually returned to fight on the Salonika front, hardened by their ordeal, carrying both the memory of unimaginable suffering and the determination to defend their homeland. Individual acts of courage punctuated the retreat, soldiers giving the last of their rations to children, families sheltering one another through snowstorms, priests tending the dying with the strength of despair, and neighbors carrying each other over icy ravines. Each day was a fight for survival, every step an act of defiance against nature itself. The Albanian Golgotha became a symbol of endurance, a reminder that in war, the greatest enemies are often not the armies across the battlefield, but the cold, hunger, disease, and exhaustion that test the human spirit to its very limits. The mountains that swallowed thousands became a living memorial, a silent witness to the suffering endured, while the survivors carried their ordeal forward, shaping both the military and cultural memory of Serbia. To imagine this retreat is to feel the cold biting into flesh, the hunger hollowing the stomach, the relentless, crushing weight of despair pressing down, yet witnessing courage, resilience, and sheer willpower. The march was not only a military retreat, but a trial of humanity itself, showing that even in the face of overwhelming odds, human beings could endure the unendurable, carry the weak, mourn the dead, and still take the next step forward. And beyond the stark suffering, there were moments of fragile beauty amid the nightmare. The glint of the morning sun on snow-laden peaks, a child's laugh echoing despite exhaustion, or a small fire shared between strangers that thawed more than just frozen fingers. These fleeting sparks of life were acts of defiance, evidence that humanity could persist even when faced with the abyss. The Albanian Golgotha thus stands not only as a tragedy, but as a testament to survival, to the extraordinary lengths people go to preserve life, honor, and hope, leaving a legacy that resonates far beyond the narrow mountain paths of 1915, echoing through generations as a monument to courage, suffering, and the unbreakable human spirit.